All right, so as you all know, or you may not know, I have a Patreon, and I also have memberships down here. You feel free to check that out. But on Patreon, I have many tiers that come with different perks. One of the perks for my top tier, my bad motherfucker tier, is you get to tell me once a month one movie you want me to review of your choice, no matter what it is. And one of my top tier patrons, Silverlock, he actually gave me a list. This was a movie I had never seen. I did want to say also, he did contact me the other day. He has recently had a tragedy in his life, a loss, and you know, he was asking if one was going to be coming soon. He could use a pick me up, so I wanted to publicly put out there, hey Silverlock, sorry man, I hate that happened to you. I hope everything is well. I'm sorry. Hopefully this review can at least give you a little bit of a pickup for the day. So hopefully we can bring Silverlock a little bit of happiness. Everybody wish him well, and you know, have him in your thoughts, prayers, and all that, whatever it is that you do. Here we go. Let's talk about Dave Made a Maze. This is a 2017 movie. I'd never heard of this movie until Silverlock brought it to my attention. Directed by Bill Watterson, and it stars Mira Rote Kumbrani, Nick Thum, and Adam Bush. Like I said, I'd never heard of it, and I can't believe it because this movie was a very interesting flick. Dave, an artist who has yet to complete anything significant in his career, builds a fort in his living room out of pure frustration, only to wind up trapped by the fantastical pitfalls, booby traps, and critters of his own creation. I know that sounds weird, and that's because this movie is weird, but it is just that right amount of weird. Dave's girlfriend, who is played by Mira Rote Kubani, I'm sure I butchered that, sorry, Annie is her name. She comes home from work or wherever one day. I think she's been on a trip, and she comes in and she can't find him anywhere in the house, and in their living room he has built a fort, a very elaborate fort out of cardboard boxes, like out of refrigerator boxes and stuff. I mean, it takes up a lot of the living room, but not all of it. You can walk around it. It looks like it's big enough for like one or two people to fit inside. And she hears him inside of it saying, hey, I'm in here. And she's like, all right, just stop fucking around and come on out. And he's like, I can't, and blah, blah, blah. And they go on, and it's very surreal. This movie is kind of kooky and surreal. It's grounded in reality a bit at a point. And then he keeps telling her, I can't come out. We get the idea that Dave is kind of eccentric. He is apparently an artist, and he apparently has issues finishing anything, because she calls his best friend over, Gordon, played by Adam Bush, and he comes over to try and talk Dave out as well. Now, they just think he's in there just being his eccentric self, and they're like, just come on out. And every time they try and go in, he's like, no, don't come in, don't come in. There's like smoke coming out of this thing and everything, like out of chimneys and all that. I mean, it's pretty elaborate. So they call over a bunch of other people because he's like, don't tell anybody else about it. But then all these other people come over, and at some point they finally decide, all right, I'm going in here. I'm coming in. You're coming the hell out of this thing. And he keeps telling them it is bigger than it looks. It's bigger on the inside. So they go into the maze, or into the fort. It's this just huge rooms and rooms and rooms full, and it's a labyrinth. And then they start going through this cardboard labyrinth that they could stand up in and everything, and they get lost in there. It's kind of a TARDIS thing where everything's bigger on the inside. They do absolutely acknowledge the absurdity of this, but they end up getting lost and are just kind of stuck in this situation. And a film crew comes along with them. They just kind of showed up. They were one of the people that they called, and they're like doing like a documentary of it as they go through there looking for them. As they go along, they start finding that, hey, this maze has booby traps, and these booby traps start taking some people out. Now, the cool thing about this is when it takes the people out, when they get killed, it's not like bloody, violent, blood and guts everywhere over the top. It's all within like this kind of cardboard-esque world, if you will. Someone gets their head cut off, red confetti starts going everywhere, and yarn and all that. Their head falls off, yes, but it's all that. It's not ever real blood. It's just like violent. It's kind of funny, but they're being as violent as they can be with like confetti and stuff. It's kind of weird. It's never like Terrifier type levels of violence. It's always somebody gets stabbed and like confetti and paper and stuff like that comes out. So it's kind of weird, but they are dying. And then as they go deeper and deeper into this maze trying to find Dave, and eventually they do come across him, they start to find out sort of what's going on. There's a creature that starts following after them, a minotaur that's half human, half cardboard bull. The movie has just really out there crazy imagery, and I gotta say, because it is a independent film, Like, the set design is the fucking star here. Now, it's a comedy. They call it a comedy horror. It's a comedy with some horror aspects to it, but it's never scary. It's never trying to be scary either. It is more of a kooky, off-the-wall, out-there comedy. And it is funny. It's got lots of funny parts to it. In particular, there's an Eddie Izzard, if you know who he is. He's a comedian. There's an Eddie Izzard reference that's made a couple of times to one of his stand-up shows that I thought was really funny. Maybe that's because I love Eddie Izzard, but whatever. It's these eccentric characters going through this really eccentric world, but the set design is absolutely fantastic. There's so many rooms that they go through. This isn't like low budget to the effect where they're like only going through a handful of rooms. No, they go through like tons and tons of rooms and hallways that are really fucking elaborate. I mean, like, it had to take a long time for them to make these. Knowing that this movie had a low budget and looking at it, you're like, holy shit, I can't see it. I mean, it's all made out of cardboard, but it's so creatively done. It starts to get really surreal. Why it's happening, I'm going to leave on the table. Well, it's kind of left on the table anyway. Is very interpretive. Overall, it is just a movie that is just, the story is just really these people running from this thing. There's a deeper meaning to the story with Dave and where his life is at and what's going on with him, but really most of the story is just these people going from really weird and interesting rooms to the next, and just how out there things get. I mean, there's a part where they turn into like sandwich bag puppets and they're running for their lives. And the other times they're just regular people walking around. There's like really creative imagery, like they walk into one room and everything in the room is forced perspective, but they are not part of the forced perspective. Like, you walk in and it looks like they come in this room and there's like a closet back here. It goes down a hallway when you open the door, and there's a table and like some stuff sitting on the table and a chair. But then as they walk up to it, it doesn't scale. You find out that the chair, or the table is actually, or the chair rather, is only like this big, even though it looks big enough for them to sit in when they first walk in. The table is like skewed and really long, even though it looks like a square table. The door in the back, somebody opens it and tries to walk in it, and apparently when they run into it, it's only like this deep. It's drawn on there to make it look like it goes real far back. Like, all the rooms are like that. Not that one, they all have like a bit of a gimmick. Really creative. Like, this is one of the most creative movies as far as like the world that it inhabits that I've ever seen. This was, if nothing else, even if you don't like the story, even if the comedy is just kind of for you, which I thought the comedy was funny. It's not, it's very dry humor a lot of the time. There is some slapsticky kind of funny stuff, but a lot of it is kind of dry, highbrow humor. But if nothing else, the visual experience, just watching this movie of all the different places they go, because it's all practical too. It is all practical, and it looks fantastic. As it goes on, it gets weirder and weirder, and more characters start showing up, some of which are totally made of cardboard. Now, they're people within cardboard suits. Like I said, it's all practical, and they look great too. I mean, the level of detail in this movie is like painstaking. You're looking at it, you're like, Jesus, this had to have been a labor of love, like a passion project. Because if not, it would have cost a fucking fortune. But it was beautifully done, beautifully shot. Like, from a technical standpoint, this movie is gorgeous. It's great. Performance-wise, I mean, everybody does, they do what they're there to do. They are supposed to be a bit off-kilter, all of them. They're in this really weird situation. While they acknowledge that it's weird and it's out there, they kind of just accept it. More accepting than I think most people would be in real life. But that's kind of the tone of the film as well. It's kind of eccentric and out there. I don't know if the comedy is going to be for everybody. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It's dry for a lot of it. There is some sophomoric humor in it, and I think maybe that'll get it by. It is a bit more of an older style comedy, like the comedy we got more in like the 80s and maybe the 90s, and less of like nowadays comedy. The comedy we get nowadays is kind of dumb, goofy, but not like that well thought out dumb from back in the day. This is very thought out comedy. Like, the things they say, everything they say, you could tell was written. They may put their own spin on it, but it's written. It's very smart comedy, I think. It seems dumb, but some of the dumbest sounding comedy is really smart. I thought that the comedy was really smart. I thought it was really funny. I can't lie. The big winner here, the showstopper, is just the sets, the set design. The whole movie, the way it looks and everything that's going on will blow you away. It was fantastic. I had a really good time with this movie. And what I also like, whenever they come across these interesting new sets, there's always something there that they have a joke or a thing that plays off of it. There's one with a particular part of a human being that everyone is like drawn to, and they kind of go through everybody like doing this one bit where they're like, no, it's not what it looks like. It's not what it looks like. It's a really funny moment, and even though they do this joke probably 6 times in a row, It's funny every time because part of the comedy is that they're doing it so many times, but they never do it too many times. They do it just right. There's quite a few of those. Now, when you get to the end of the movie and we get to where it goes, I got what the movie was trying to say, because it does have a deeper meaning and to what's going on. I don't think it necessarily did the best job putting that out there. They do put it out there and they explain it in a roundabout way. I think it was a really good idea, but I don't think they necessarily committed as much time as they should have. It seemed a bit more like an afterthought. It is clear that the experience here, the world they created, it was the most important thing to them. I would have liked them to maybe spend a bit more time with why this is happening. And like I said, you get an answer. It's not super clear cut, but you do get an answer to that. But it's almost like they just are wrapping up the film and they say, oh yeah, we gotta put out there why this is happening. And I wish that we had just gotten a little bit more on that to kind of give some of this a bit more relevance. Because as it stands, it's all really cool, but it's like, why? What is the point? If they had started tying the why together a little bit earlier, I think it would have given that stuff a little bit more relevance. That in no way takes away from the film. I mean, it could add to the film had they done that, but I think the movie was still really good and I really enjoyed it. And it is definitely very different. If you're looking for a very different experience and a very interesting experience and something that is really going to keep your mind going just by how articulate and fantastical this world is, this is it. This movie looks fantastic. It is a visual masterpiece. A little light in the story, lighter than I would have liked in the story department, but you know, it makes up for it with great character that have some great screen presence and fantastic set design and everything that's going on. With all that being said, I would say that this movie is absolutely, I have a hard time saying it's worth a buy because I do know that this isn't going to be for everybody, but I will say it is absolutely worth a rent.
All he wanted was this.
To return some videotape.
For me, I'm probably gonna, if I can find like a nice version of this, I think I might pick this one up. I really enjoyed it. I think some people this is totally gonna be worth a buy. Some people even more than that. But I think as a whole, for the majority, I'm gonna say it's definitely worth a rent. Yeah, you guys let me know in the comments below what you thought if you've seen Dave Made a Maze. If not, go check it out. It's on Amazon Prime. And if you're a Prime member, which so many people are, you can watch it for free there. You don't have to like rent it or anything. It's part of their streaming. So it is absolutely worth checking it out. That's where I checked it out. And I loved it. I thought it was really damn good.